Introducing the official Werx coffee in 3 bold flavors. Fog Navigator, the master of mornings, chocolate and apricot. Texas Pecan, Lone Star Luxury, pecan and cocoa. House Decaf, full flavor, no buzz, smoky dark chocolate. 3 bold new flavors now available at monkeywerxus.com/shop or scan the QR code on screen now.
All right. Hey, good morning, folks. This is going to be your sit rep. It is 11/13/2023, and coming to you live here from the great state of Texas in the Monkey Lounge. As we get into the deets of what's going on around the world, we're going to be taking a look at the economy, a little hot and heavy this morning, and not just the United States, but what's going on abroad, because we don't really hear a lot of that on our media. And it's good to be informed so we understand exactly what's going on, or not just here, but abroad. It's not just about wars, folks. It's also about the economic conditions that are surrounding all of this. And yeah, like I always say, war is an economy, but you have to be in one typically for it to really start to stimulate things. Now, we will look at a couple of just, some comedy relief as well. I'm going to throw in there. And, well, let's just get into it. So we're going to jump over here to our mini board, and that's going to be basically, let's see, I'm only showing 95 on screen right now. So it's a little light, but it's a little early. So the main brunt that we took out, we're going to be about 65 trainers. So we've already pulled those out of the equation. H60s would be the next one that would probably catch my eye. We've got C17s that are up. They look to be all returning from Europe or the Middle East. And we only worry about air refuelers. That's kind of a light number. We do have one Q4 drone, and that's Forte 10. We'll look at that on our watch list. In fact, let's get over to that right now. And you can see here in the United States, down to the southern border, we've got Homeland Security, both in Arizona and looks to be New Mexico, or almost to New Mexico. And then those are survey flights that are currently up. Well, that's actually a NOAA bird that's up in the Dakotas. So if you're in that area, I'd be watching the weather closely. But we got a lot of surveys. We do have a lot of the Phoenix. That means the agency boys are on the move. Like that one right there looks to be headed to Guantanamo Bay. Why would the agency boys be headed to Guantanamo? Because that's who it is. That's a good question. But looks like we do have an inbound flight. That will be wiped from the board 1,000,000%. And then, of course, survey flights. We're 14 survey flights that are currently up. That's going to be your FBI, which we've got 3 of the DOJ currently on the move right now. And that one is yet another DOJ right there. And let's see, some C-17s in the mix. Let's get over to Europe and take a look at what's going on there. And you're going to notice that it's pretty active with C-17s. Right, you can see them kind of in and out of the region. It has feathered out a little bit, I will say that. That's going to be an Italian G5. And then that's going to be a drone that is over the Mediterranean. And then notice the C-17 activity in and out of Cyprus. That seems to be their go-to. And then there's a Q4. That's Forte 10. We're talking about that. It's a high altitude, long range, long hang time. Intelligence gathering machine. And then here, speaking of intel, let's transition on over. Notice we still have the same stuff going on over Israel. We've got the same stuff headed, getting looks at Ukraine and Russia, etc. And then notice that one looks to be coming. I think that's coming out of Iceland, because we've got a major catastrophic event about to take place there with a volcano that has been just given all kinds of indications it's getting ready to blow. And then let's see, we get over to this side, and it looks like kind of north of Vegas, around that general area. Again, intelligence aircraft. Now let's look at the drones. Not too much, except for one big move out of Southern California over to Washington, D.C. Which direction is it going? I don't know. Could be headed to Southern Cal. And then, let's see, nothing up in normal spots. Even Turkey seems to have subsided a little bit with their drone activity, which is kind of odd. Coming out of Malta, just notice that one with the broken trace headed over the Middle East. That could be going anywhere. It looks to be kind of towards Gaza before it breaks the trace. And then we've got this little activity over the Persian Gulf area, which I find interesting because we do know we've got, a fleet there, right? And, okay, so there is that part. Let's look at the R-135 activity, and all I've got is this one right here. But just notice the heavy duty back and forth, and that looks to be coming out of Crete. And then let's look at the C-17s. Notice the broken traces as they get out towards the Middle East. Yeah, they've been wiping the boards heavily too, which is good. I mean, you want that. We don't, to a degree, you want that. We want to know where they're going, but we also want to keep our troops safe. So, and then this, again, this is over the last 3 days. So this isn't like live, just landing stuff. Okay. But did you notice in that last little picture right there? Let me back that up just a little bit. You see that flight that's going into Jordan, right on the Gaza, or sorry, not the Gaza, but the ancient Samaria West Bank side, right? You see how it's landing in there? Remember, do not lose sight that the United States government trained 6 months ago. We were training 50,000, I think it was, Palestinian security forces. Okay. And do you think any of those were involved in the Hamas attack? Probably so. Don't also lose sight that we have been pumping hundreds of millions of dollars into Palestine. And oh, by the way, we've given them a bunch of new equipment, right? Battle-hardened vehicles. So to see us pump things into there, more than likely, we're probably picking folks up and bringing them to the United States if I were a betting man. And we'll continue on with the C-17 side of the house. But just notice over the last 3 days, so this is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, not today, it has thinned out significantly. That would indicate, if we continue to see that trend, that most of the assets are in play to start getting this party started. All right. All right. Again, heavy in Germany. We get over the United States. Look at how thinned out it is. Notice the West Coast, very concentrated West Coast stuff. And then up the ports. Now, let me tell you this. This is one thing that I do want to point out. I do not see a trace yet, but we had over 100 Bradley fighting vehicles on a train, desert tan, in Texas, headed southbound. And it looked to be, now this was up in Ponder, I think was where they had gathered or gotten the video, but it was headed south. I'm waiting to see if we see something pop on to, the flight tracker in terms of the Houston port. Not seeing it yet, but they could put them on boats. Maybe that then we'll never see it, but that would be slow boating it over there. Bradley fighting vehicles. That's I just thought it was interesting, but there were 100 on there. No markings, just desert tan. Okay. All right, we will move on from the C-17s. Looking at the Sub Hunter, the only thing I have on the Sub Hunter side of the house is right here off the coast of Israel and Lebanon. Right, see that south of Cyprus? Yeah, that's it. I mean, there's one little blink in the United States, but just notice it comes out of Malta, it heads over to that general direction, and we get over here to this side, and that's all I have. Just one little movement. Okay. All right, let's get into the news, and we'll start to just take a look at what's going on around the world. Like I said, the economy side of the house. We get over to Flashbangs. Let's see, on his docket today, looks like he's meeting with the 2023 Stanley Cup winners, Vegas Golden Knights, headed to the White House. And I'm sure they're thrilled, just as we are. All right, let's see here. And he's got a bilateral meeting with, I guess, the president from Indonesia. I can imagine the word salad that he puts out, because I can't even pronounce that. All right. Okay, or I probably could, but we'd be here a little while trying to sound that one out. Yes. Okay. A little comedy relief for you here, but it gets better. Biden moves to reduce U.S. reliance on Russian nuclear supply chain. Again, Biden moves to reduce U.S. reliance on the Russian nuclear supply chain. So why would you read that twice? Well, let me ask the question. We have been providing Ukraine and sanctioning Russia for 2 years. And we are just now making moves to reduce our reliance on Russian uranium enrichment. Yeah, you may remember if you go back to Uranium One that there was a lot of involvement in us basically selling out everybody and their brother on this whole Uranium One thing. That was Hillary Clinton herself. So, but yeah, the U.S. depends on Russian state-operated firm Rosatom for nearly 50% of its global uranium enrichment, essentially for the nation's nuclear energy production. And then it says here that America's reliance on Russian nuclear supply chains continues despite sanctions, inadvertently funding Russia's defense sector and creating a critically vulnerable energy security sector. Okay. And then Biden administration is seeking $2.16 billion to boost domestic uranium enrichment capabilities. Oh, by the way, guess who's behind all of the nuclear stuff here in the United States? Yes, that would be Bill Gates. So, all right. Nonetheless, just keep your eyes on this. I think it's the dumbest move, and the fact that we are just now, 2 years later, making a move, it just tells you how on top of it we really are. Okay. All right. Speaking of, Moody's cuts the USA AAA rating outlook to negative. All right. The Treasury Department disagrees. I would probably say they strongly disagree, but check this out. What happened? Who could have seen this coming? This is after a disastrous 30-year bond auction this week, a collapse in Treasury market liquidity, and an accelerating rise in the market's perception of the United States credit risk. Yeah, I think the writing is on the wall, especially with BRICS, but that is a very bad thing because that means that our interest rates go up and our ability to borrow goes down. It's not a good situation, especially given I think we have $10 trillion in interest a year now. Yeah. All right. Now, this I thought was interesting, but I'm going to just kind of say take this with a pinch of salt, okay? Beef prices hit a record high in southwestern U.S., as the southwestern U.S. recovers from the worst dry spell in 1,200 years. That's where I kind of go, really, right? I mean, $8 a pound, yeah, that's record high, and we get it. It's been a bad drought over our beef-rich areas. Texas has been horrendous this past year. But 1,200 years, it's a bit of a reach because we haven't been here that long. So how do you know, right? Do you go back and ask the native Indians? Oh, wait a minute. We gave them blankets with smallpox. That's right. Yeah. Wiped them out, took their land. And 1,200 years back, that would have been quite the stint. So who really knows what it was like 1,200 years ago here domestically? Anyway. Let's move on. All right. 1.2 million chickens will be slaughtered at an Iowa farm where bird flu was found. And so it looks like they have confirmed that this Iowa egg farm is the second massive case this week of bird flu. So when this takes place, it has a direct impact on our food supply. Right? And this isn't the first time that's happened. In fact, this has happened multiple times over the last 2 years. So not a good story. That also impacts the cost of chicken. Okay. All right. And then Germany sounds the alarm. Catastrophic situation in stores. Check this out. They're saying that their shelves are just going empty. And that's not a good situation. I do see something behind it. Now, that could be a stock behind on the other side, maybe. But they're saying the reason this is why it is because they've got a massive strike going on with supply workers, and it's caused the shelves to just go bare. They're saying that they're nowhere near where they need to be to basically come to the table and have an agreement, and that this is going to go on for quite some time. And so this is a bad, bad situation when you can't get food, right? Okay. This is just horrible. You hate to hear stuff like this, but anyway, 5 U.S. service members killed in a helicopter crash. This happened in the Eastern Mediterranean yesterday, I believe it was. Now, there were some initial reports that there was an F-18 that had crashed. I haven't seen anything else on that, but what I do see is this, and it looks like they were actually doing an air refueling exercise in a Black Hawk, and something happened, and the Black Hawk went down, killing all 5 members on board. If you're familiar with that, that would also probably indicate the fact that they had the air refueling boom on that and they were hooking up for fuel, that was probably going to be some of your high-speed dudes, okay, which is pretty bad. But don't know what really happened other than during the air refueling mission, they basically ottered into the Mediterranean. All right, if you would, keep their family members in your prayers, because it's horrible news to hear, and to lose loved ones like that is just it's senseless, you know. All right, Moscow targets Kiev region after a long period of calm. What? You mean the war is still going on in Russia and Ukraine? That's strange. Haven't heard anything about that lately. And so let's do this. Let's go take a gander as we get into what's going on that side of the world. Well, let's first get a little comedy relief here. Have you seen this? Yeah, that's your boy Zelensky. Oh, yeah, he's got moves. Oh, there he is. Look at this entertainer. Yeah. Well, and then it gets to this, and you go, what? What? Oh, yeah, and the wink. Oh, I like the high heels, the pumps. Yeah, that's pretty funny. And then this move, I don't know what this is. It's like peacocking, or I don't know, man. Is that I don't even know what that is. Anyway, there's your comedy for today, but just thought I'd throw that out there as we get into what's going on around the world. So let's before we get too far, let me go over to the Ukraine-Russia piece. Now, this was taken yesterday, and you're going to look at that and you're going to, well, you know, that looks a lot like it did 2 years ago. Yeah, hasn't changed. In fact, Russia is still just blasting away, and they're starting to make some moves onto Kiev, which I think is very interesting. And when we look at the news and we get into some of this, check this out. This is where it gets kind of crazy. But Ukraine is bracing for a renewed Russian aerial onslaught this winter. Now remember, I just said aerial onslaught this winter. After systematic, sorry. I've only had 1 cup of coffee this morning, and probably if I had 2, this would just flow. But nonetheless, after the strikes basically last year targeted the country's energy grid, leaving thousands without heating or electricity and freezing temperatures for long periods. They're saying that after a long pause of 52 days, the enemy renewed missile attacks on Kiev. Yeah, they're saying they're going to basically start to see, or they're expecting to see, aircraft starting to engage over the region again. And we will show you that here in just a minute. But it says the Air Force said it was clarifying whether or not the capital had been targeted by this ballistic missile or by an S-400 anti-aircraft missile. So as these hits are starting to pop off, some of it could actually be their air defense system coming back down to the ground. And we'll continue to watch and monitor, even though all eyes are on the Middle East. But here's another one for you. U.S. purchases a large batch of the Gepard units for Ukraine. Yeah, this right here, it is it's a self-propelled anti-aircraft system from Jordan for Ukraine. So we're taking them out of Jordan, or buying them from Jordan, and we're sending them over to Ukraine. And it says the weaponry initially sold to Amman, Jordan, by the Netherlands, and has found its way into the hands of the Ukrainian forces. That's because the United States has gone in and bought them, but they're sending 60 of these anti-aircraft systems over to Ukraine. Like I said, they're expecting the Russians to start basically doing some aerial bombarding and attacks. All right. Now, we saw the other day the fact that Twinkle Toes Zelensky was basically saying, hey, listen, just loan us money. We'll give it back to you after the war. Well, look, he's baiting the Russians again, right? We saw that in the past where he tries to get them to engage because, listen, if the Russians fully engage and start going into Ukraine, then you're probably going to get a little more of a response from the United States and NATO. But if they just keep peppering like they're doing, and, it does look and appear that the U.S. has said, we're done putting money in on this deal, and we'll probably let this thing kind of run its course. Or let's see what happens. The deep state does have a pretty big stronghold there, and maybe they've just figured out that we're probably going to lose ground on this one. Pick our battles, so to speak. But anyway, Ukraine intelligence officer behind the Nord Stream pipeline explosion. This, again, is just baiting. If he was behind any of this, he would have been behind a secondary explosion, which was, they think, maybe some divers, which would have been in the far other area, not really the one that's pictured here. I think this is the main one that was taken out by a U.S. Navy P-8. But yeah, this, I believe, is just, he's just trying to bait the Russians because he's throwing some stuff out there to get them to respond and maybe take on some bigger strikes because of what it did to their economy. All right. And Russia's economy, that is. Okay, the map shows another key Ukraine city almost fully encircled by 40,000 Russian troops. And so if you go back over here to this little map as we look at this, you're going to note the little red dots that you see are basically Russian troop locations. They've got base stuff moving in. Note the ones to the north of Kiev, all right? And that's a pretty good indicator when you start to see those stack up that they may make a push for Kiev here in the not-too-distant future. Time will tell, but that's when it'll get really interesting over there because then it'll be a matter of we either engage or we don't, right? All right. Anyway, this map shows that this city is encircled by 40,000 troops, Russian troops. So it looks like they are getting ready to go in and take this city. This is the location. Again, this is Donetsk over here. And Crimea will be down further south of this, okay? But that is the location. So it looks like there's about to do a very big grab over this region, which would push the Russians through. And I think they're calling this, there's a move called, let's see if I can find, it's a pincer move, I believe is what they called that. But nonetheless, I'm not even going to try to find it. It's probably right in front of my eyes, but let's move on. Okay, Israeli jets strike South Lebanon after a Hezbollah attack. That's coming from the IDF, basically telling the news what happened. But the Israeli army said a number of civilians were wounded in the anti-tank missile strike near the village of Dovev, just a half a mile from the frontier with Lebanon. So that's right up there on that Lebanon border. So if we go back over to this little mini map here and we bounce over to that side of it, if you look up to the far north, those are the strike areas, okay? Again, Hezbollah continues to bait the United States, but they also are baiting Israel to try and engage to the north. They want to spread this war effort out. It's going to come back to bite them because, like I've mentioned before, Isaiah 17, if you look at how many of the Hezbollah and the Iranian forces are inside Damascus, they pretty much occupy most of Damascus. It is an insane amount. So that is a major threat because Damascus is only like 30 miles or so away from the Israeli northern border. And that, you wake up overnight, Damascus is gone. That'll be why, all right? So again, Hezbollah is trying to bait the United States into a war, and they're trying to get Israel to engage to the north. You will notice that it looks pretty even Steven in terms of the map, north and south. The south stuff you see with the little blue bombs down there are Gaza, which, by the way, I was going to show the footage, but it would probably get me demonetized. But it is 4,000-pound bombs hitting Gaza. It is insane, the size of these things. But nonetheless, it looks like there is no stopping in sight. I don't think this thing's going to end anytime soon. In fact, given all of the movements that we have made, and it looks like it's starting to feather out, tells me we've got assets in play and ready to go. So, all right. So that is that piece of it. Now, let's just take a quick look at what's going on in terms of the NOTAMs. Again, this area right here, if you get over to Iceland, this is the spot, which I find interesting. There's nothing over it. I believe that's the spot that has the volcanic activity. And you go a little further north here. Let me just see if there's anything. It just looks like regular policing missions, but they are saying that they're expecting this to basically go hot. Now, it's right along the waterfront. So is there a risk of some type of tsunami activity? Maybe. Let me just double check as I get in a little closer to that. But yeah, I want to say this is where the activity is. It is one of these little peninsulas. And yeah, I do think it's down here. In fact, I think it's this area right in here. All right. But anyway, they are evacuating people because it is, they say, on the brink of going hot. So, all right. But this looks to be, I don't even know. These are just active danger zones all around this area. And again, air policing. I find that interesting wording. All right. And then let me back this up just a little bit here. Look at the United States. It looks to be pretty much the same. I'm not seeing too much in the way of NOTAMs that catch my eye. Doesn't look like flashbang is on the move. There is a TFR out here because we've got, I guess, all of these world leaders coming into San Francisco, which, by the way, they got the streets cleaned up overnight, and now you've got a pretty big rainstorm coming in. Where they took them, who knows? Probably flew them out to other cities around the United States because that's how they do things. There's just no telling. But clearly, they're coming in to talk about all kinds of situations going on around the world. And, of course, we've got, the flashbang Build Back Better. It's not the United States. It would be, Iran. It's Build Back Better, Ukraine, Gaza, Palestine, Russia, everybody but the United States. So anyway, buckle up because it does appear that we've got a lot of things on the near-term horizon that are going to impact us as a society in whole. And if we go into World War III, that's going to be it's going to be bad. All right. All right. Well, listen, that's going to do it. Keep that powder dry and stay frosty, and we'll talk soon. God bless. Monkey out. Thanks for watching, folks. You can check out the latest gear and products by selecting the QR code on your screen now or go to monkeyworksus.com.